And it did change forever. And in my case, I had been injured at sea in the South Pacific, not by the Japanese, but by one of those typhoons that come through. The waves were running over 100 feet high, and as I was going down a ladder with something in my hand, a big wave hit it and rocked the ship and threw me over that thing, and I fell about 12 or 15 feet and hit on my knees in on the steel deck. So eventually that done me in. So I didn't serve like these brave men did here in battle and so forth. And I often wondered why the good Lord let me live and took the lives of some of the brave soldiers and Marines and so forth that fought the war. I eventually they eventually released me in I think October of 1942. But as far as that particular morning is concerned, they it was right before 8 o'clock, and I had just finished breakfast and was walked out on the deck and was talking to one of the chiefs there, just passing the time, when the first plane came in, and he spoke, Chief Boatswain mate, and he looked up and he saw that red dot on the wing. He said, "Look at that red ball under that wing." He said, "They must have been using it for target practice." But about that time it passed over Ford Island and dropped a bomb, and looked like the top of that Ford Island just exploded like a flower open. And he immediately said, "Hell no, that's not that, that's a Japanese plane." So he grabbed a microphone on the wall there where he would make an announcement to all the crew members, and he told everybody your battle station, and he emphasized that with and no BS about it. So everybody headed for their battle station. I have often thought that they waited just a couple of minutes later. There was many of the sailors, not only on my ship, but on others that were dressed for shore. The first shore boat left at 8 o'clock. So they were standing around waiting for that boat to leave. If they had just waited a few more minutes, that bay would have been full of shore boats loaded down with sailors and Marines headed to shore for the day. But fortunately they hit a little bit earlier, and everybody was able to man their stations. My ship didn't get hit, well, not by any large bomb anyway. I was on a destroyer tender, and we had 4 destroyers tied up beside us at the time. And as a tender, we furnished the destroyers anything they needed, from toilet paper to torpedoes or whatever. And we had experts on there that could fix anything that they had on the destroyers. If they had a problem, they could pull alongside, and we had a man that could take care of it. And one of the destroyers on there did have their guns down. They didn't working on them, so they never fired at all. All the others destroyers did get their guns get to working, but I don't know how many they hit. Not many, because our score that day was rather small. We did one of the pilots did circle over and fire at our ship, and two bullets hit the deck, forward deck, but that's heavy steel, and when they just hit that, they bounced right off and didn't hit anybody, so we didn't get hurt at all, and no damage. But everybody manned their ship, manned their guns and so forth. My battle station was I was a loader on a 5-inch gun, and I told him I didn't fire a lick that day because the gun I was manning was geared to shoot 25 or 30 miles. It wasn't geared for up close. If we'd have fired it, I'd have got hit somebody over in Honolulu. So I didn't fire a lick, and I kind of feel embarrassed when they asked me how many I shot. I didn't shoot any, unfortunately. But the other, we had three 3-inch anti-aircraft guns on, and they did get into action. And I think about all they done was waste ammunition that day. I didn't see them hit a plane, but as I said, I don't remember now how many that was knocked down, but there were very few in comparison. So.
Well, Mr. Leavelle, let me ask you a question. Having survived that shock of Pearl Harbor, what are the lessons you think that these young people here today should have learned, and we all should learn, in order to keep us prepared for the future?
Well, I don't know exactly how to answer that, other than do what they are doing now. They're going through training, and as long as they pay attention to what they're supposed to do and learn what they're being taught, I think they'll do very well, because they look like a very good group of people to me. I don't think I was ever that young, really. They're a very good-looking group, and so I think if they just follow what their teachers and instructors tell them, they'll be fine.
I certainly remember the lesson of if you train like you fight, you'll fight like you train.
Exactly.
And I think that's one of the lessons that you've certainly brought back. I'd like to jump forward in your lifetime to another instance. You thought, I'm sure, that, well, you dodged that bullet. You walked away with all your arms and legs from those days in Pearl Harbor, and then in 1962, 63, that's right. I was actually a young airman stationed about 100 miles away from Dallas on that fateful day in November.
I wish I was with you.
As you know, that question lingers today. There's still all kinds of theories about who did what to whom and when. So we're kind of interested to hear, well, more than kind of interested, we're extremely interested to hear your reflections on that period when Lee Harvey Oswald shot and killed President John Kennedy.
Well, there's a lot more to it than Lee Harvey Oswald shooting the president, as far as that goes. Just to answer your question before you ask that, there was no conspiracy, regardless of what you think or what you've been told. I worked on this several months after the thing was over with, and I shot down every conspiracy theory that come up. But on that particular day, I did not have an assignment. My partner was on vacation, and my captain, he didn't like for us to work single-handed. All the rest of the men out of my bureau were given assignments, and all of them were assigned something to do with the motorcade. We had 2 officers riding in the motorcade. But my duties was, he told me just to stick around the office and take care of anything that might come in. Well, as I did recruit me a patrolman out of the patrol division, and went out and picked up an armed robbery suspect that I had a warrant for, and come back in. And when we came back into the office that day, we was listening to the dispatcher, because he was giving the location of the motorcades block by block. And when we got into the basement where Oswald was later shot, and turned the radio off and headed in, across the floor and up the elevator to the 3rd floor, and I walked in, my lieutenant told me, I said, well, they shot the president. Well, I was just, when we turned the radio off, they had not turned on Houston Street. They were at the point of turning, but they hadn't made the turn yet. So I thought he was just kidding me until I was listening to, he had this squawk box on, as we called it, from the dispatcher, and I soon realized he was serious about it. And anyway, to bring a little quicker along, he told me, he said, put that prisoner up and get down to Elm in Houston and find out what's going on, because I'm gonna get calls on it. And he said, I don't know what's happening. Back in those days, we didn't have the walkie-talkies or the cell phones and all of this. So if I was in the field and needed to talk to my office, I had to get on a pay phone and call in. So when I got down there, the inspector of police on the front door of the school book depository, and I asked him if the back building had been sealed off front and back so nobody could get in or out, and he informed me they was. Then he also told me that he had several witnesses. He didn't know what to do with it, so we sent them over to the sheriff's office. Well, knowing how witnesses have a way of changing their stories, I thought it best, and he told me my officers, the homicide officers up searching, I thought it best that I talk to the witnesses, because witnesses have a way of changing their stories from time to time. So I went over, and there's about 15 or 18 people in the office there, and the chief deputy was wringing his hands. When I walked in, he said, I got all of your witnesses here, what you want me to do with them? I told him, I said, I need statements from them. Call in your men to take statements. But about that time, about 6 officers from our burglary and theft division walked in and said, Jim, we're sending in here to help you, what do you need? I said, every one you need, just exactly what I need. Scatter out there and take these statements and have them sign them and so forth, and tell them that I will be in touch with them, but not today. And then to skip ahead a little further after that, I heard the dispatcher from the sheriff's office saying that one of our police officers was shot in the Oak Cliff area. Well, I called my lieutenant and asked him who was covering that, because any time a police officer gets shot, the homicide division covers it. And he said he didn't have anybody, and I told him that I would take it. So I asked one of the burglary and theft detectives, who I knew would probably have a car if anybody did, and he had left one parked in the middle of Houston Street. So I got his keys and went to the shooting of Officer J.D. Tippett. And I talked with some of the witnesses and so forth, and here again, I'll just tell you, I ended up, after a little investigation, I had 4 good witnesses on that from all around the car. So, but there's a lot of different stories put out, but they all told the same story. And then after I finished up there, also the Davis sisters was in an apartment right all within 50 feet of where the police car was stopped. And when they heard the first shots, they run to the front door, and they saw Oswald with his last shot. And when he run past them within about 20 feet of their front porch, he emptied the shells out of his pistol, the empty ones. And then there was a cab driver parked just a few feet away on a side street. He was eating his sack lunch that he brought with him, and he had a clear view of it without any problem. And when he saw him running that direction, he's afraid he's going to commandeer his car, so he got out and hid behind it. And but Oswald went on by. As Oswald went by, he said the poor damn cop, or the poor darn cop, he didn't know which. But he kept on going. Well, I don't know if I mentioned it, but when he passed the Davis sisters there, he emptied the fired shells out of his gun and into the lawn or grass. So when the officers showed up, well, they were able to tell them that there was some shell cases down there, which I was fortunate that they did, and I'm happy that they did, because there's nothing like a big-footed policeman chomping stuff into the ground, and I would have not got those shells if it had not been for their information about it. And when I got there, the officers had to call. He was juggling them in his hand like dice, and everybody, I said, how many people looked at these? Well, everybody looked at them. I said, I guess that goes, I shot my chances of getting fingerprints off of those. And so I told him to send them to the crime lab to be checked. I said, if we ever come up with a pistol, at least we can check the primer marks on it. And we did later on. And then kind of skipping on, we got a call about Oswald, somebody being in the Texas Theater up the street, and of course the squad swarmed in on that when that went out, and they arrested him in the theater, and after a fight, and one of the officers got bumped up here on the head a little bit, and of course Oswald had they fell into the seats like this right here. It's pretty sharp on that, and cut a little spot over his right eye, and I treated that with a Band-Aid after he got to they got him to the office. Incidentally, there's 3 different police officers told me they hit him and cut that place on it, so I had plenty of witnesses there telling me how he got that injury, but I don't think any of them did. I think he got it when he fell into the seats. And anyway, when I got him and started talking to Oswald, and I asked him about shooting the police officer, he said, I didn't shoot anybody. Well, I thought it was a little strange in a way, because I had worked 2 other police officers' murders, and usually when they were talking to him about the shooting, they would say, I didn't shoot the policeman, or I didn't shoot the cop. But I finally figured out a little bit later why he answered it that way. When I was talking to him, I had no clue that he was going to be a suspect in the shooting of the president. I was talking to him strictly about the officer. I didn't have a clue that he was going to be a suspect in that later on. And that's the reason he answered it like he did, because he knew we were going to wrap him with that other one. So he was getting his denial in earlier. I didn't shoot anybody. Consequently, as he told you earlier, when I was transferring him and handcuffing myself to him, I told him, I said, Lee, if anybody shoots at you, I hope they're as good a shot as you are, meaning that they hit him and not me. So, and it happened that way, fortunately. So, but he just kind of laughed, and that's the first time that he laughed during the entire time he was in custody. And why did he laugh? I figured that out too, because I complimented him on his shooting, and that's what he was looking for, was some credit for whatever he was good for.
Well, that was certainly one of the most dramatic points in many of our lives. I remember it clearly when someone came into me, as I said, about 100 miles away, and said, the president's been shot, and I said, of course, the president of what? And none of us could believe it. It's one of those instances in our lives that we will never forget exactly where we were when we got the news. Exactly where we were when we got the news that President John Kennedy had been assassinated. So, thank you very much for not only what you have done, but for your certainly for your remarks today. I'd like to move on now to Ambassador